Okay, now let us look at installing Exchange 2010 to add a mail server to our machine. First thing you need to do before you install server is to install all the prerequisite files. These are files the machine needs to be able to install Exchange. It is quite a hefty list, so the easiest thing to do is use one of the built-in scripts to do it. So if we go to the command prompt and we run it as an administrator, then we need to change drive to the drive that holds the Exchange CD. In my case, it's F:. We then need to change directory to scripts, and in here there are quite a lot of scripts that we can use, but what we are going to do is type in server manager cmd minus IP for import. Then we're going to use the Exchange -typical .xml, and that will run the script that we require. This is rather an old-fashioned way of doing it, but I find it nice and simple. If you do wish to use the PowerShell to do it, what I would recommend is you do a quick Google search, because the command required for this is quite lengthy and is very easy to mistype, so I suggest you copy and paste it across. Here's an example of one of the search pages I found. So what you'd have to do is import module server manager. Then you have to do this fairly lengthy command here to add all the add-ons. So I prefer my quite direct way. But as you see, Windows does warn you that this command is quite old-fashioned, and it recommends the PowerShell commandlets instead. So all we have to do now is wait for it to install all the add-ons it requires, and this will take us several minutes. So once more, I'll land up pausing the video. As you see, it's now finished. Don't worry about the bright yellow warnings. This is just to remind you that you must restart the server to finish the installation process. So we'll restart the machine and wait for it to come back up again. Okay, now it's rebooted. Next thing we need to do is run the Exchange server setup wizard. So what we'll do is we'll go on to the drive that holds the disk, in my case F, find the setup file, and again, just to be on the safe side, right click, run as administrator, and this should launch the wizard. A couple of the stages will be greyed out. You'll notice install .NET Framework and PowerShell. Those were installed previously. Step 3 is to choose the Exchange language options, and the simplest thing to do is install only the languages from the DVD. That is quite a list and should be all that's needed in most installations. Let's install Exchange Server itself, and it swaps wizards for us, and that will take a few seconds to download the 123 megs required, so I'll pause once more. Right, here's a new wizard. So we can read the introduction, and as normal, read the license agreement, and we'll accept it. You can send back any errors of crashes to Microsoft, and this will hopefully improve Exchange for everyone. I'll say no because this is a lab environment. And for your installation type, 9 times out of 10, the typical Exchange will do fine. And there's where it's going to be installed to, onto my C drive. We'll give it a name, so we'll call this one KenMail, just so we can find it later. If you have any clients running Outlook 2003 or earlier, you need to install the public folders. We will say no because we don't. And will your server be internet facing? This means directly connected to the internet for things like ActiveSync and Outlook web app. So we'll say yes, and we'll call the machine mail dot a name of a domain. So next. Do you want to join the Customer Experience Improvement Program? Again, because it's a lab, we'll say no. Then the machine checks to make sure that you have all the programs required installed. These are the ones we just installed a couple of minutes ago, but the wizard still checks to see if they're there. So in a few seconds it should start checking these prerequisites. There may be one or two warnings come up, but again we know we've installed everything, and it's just a case of sitting waiting for this to finish when the install button will pop up. So I'll pause yet again. Okay, now the readiness check has completed. As you can see, there are a couple of warnings saying we won't be able to install Exchange 2007 anymore, and we should reinstall the Microsoft Office filter pack. But the install button is there, so I'll click install and off it goes. Now this can take up to an hour to install, so I'll actually stop the video now and I'll upload it as part 1. Part 2 will come along later, and that will be configuring the Exchange server.